I've been selling onions and pepper in that market for over 10 years. Everybody knows me. My stall is the third from the left, right beside the meat sellers. I know all the regulars, Mama Bose with her noisy mouth, Uncle Bola who sells goat meat, and even small Musa who runs errands for everyone. But the day Mallam Musa arrived, things changed. He came with just one table, a rusty weighing scale, and fresh-looking beef tied in transparent nylon. Nothing too fancy. But it was what happened after he set up that still gives me chills today. His meat stall never had flies. I'm serious. You know how meat attracts flies like sugar attracts ants. Once it's out in the sun, they start buzzing and gathering in thick clouds. But for Mallam Musa, not even one fly came close. His meat just sat there, red and juicy, with not a single insect touching it. At first, people were just surprised. Some said maybe he sprayed something strong. Others claimed it was luck. But me, I kept my eye on him. Something about it didn't feel right. He didn't talk to anyone. He didn't greet. He didn't laugh. His face was always dry like old Gary. He wore the same black wrapper every day. No one knew where he lived or where he came from. He would arrive before everyone and leave after most had packed. Business boomed for him. People left other meat sellers and rushed to his stall. Clean meat, they called it. No flies. No germs. Even Mama Bose, who always shouted hygiene, started buying from him. The other sellers grumbled, but they couldn't say much. After all, he was doing something right. Then one afternoon, as I arranged my peppers, I heard Uncle Bola whisper to another seller, "That man's meat is too fresh. I don't trust it." But they still bought from him. The thing that made me really start watching him closely was the way his table stayed cool, even in heat. While others were fanning flies or covering their meat with leaves, Mallam Musa's table just sat there, clean and untouched, like something from a fridge. One day, I asked him directly. I said, "Mallam, which chemical do you use for your meat?" He just looked at me, blinked slowly, and walked away. That silence told me everything I needed to know. Something was off. Something was wrong. And I was going to find out what. That first night I stayed late in the market wasn't planned. It had rained heavily that afternoon, and most sellers left early. My onions had gotten wet, so I spread them out on an old mat to dry before heading home. The whole place was quiet. Just a few people packing up in the distance. Mallam Musa's stall was still open. He stood behind his table like always, arms folded, face still. That was when I noticed something. A small boy was standing with him. The boy didn't look like a customer's child. He wasn't holding anything. Just standing there barefoot, staring ahead. Mallam bent slightly and whispered something to him. I couldn't hear. Then he reached under the table and pulled out a black bag. I should have looked away. I should have minded my business. But something made me stay. I crouched behind a wooden crate and watched from the corner of my eye. Mallam opened the bag. Took out a white cloth. He spread it on the table, the same table he sold meat on. Then he brought out a small silver bowl. That's when the boy climbed up. Willingly. No noise. No crying. Like he had done it before. What happened next still makes my hands shake. Mallam picked up a knife. Not the one he used to cut beef during the day, a smaller one, thinner, like something you use for peeling mango. He held the boy's hand. Said something low, like a prayer or a chant. Then he sliced. The boy didn't scream. Not even a whimper. He just looked at the ceiling as blood dripped into the bowl. One finger, then another. I covered my mouth and almost threw up. I ran. I didn't stop running until I got home. I locked my door and sat on the floor, shaking like a leaf. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I went to the market like nothing happened. Mallam Musa was already there, arranging his fresh meat. The same clean table. The same strange silence. People gathered around him like usual. Laughing. Buying. Praising the freshness. I stood by my stall and looked at them, wondering if any of them would believe what I saw. But I said nothing. Who would believe me? He was selling meat. Not body parts. Or at least, that's what they thought. And the boy? He was gone. No one asked questions. No one noticed anything strange. But I did. I noticed something else too, the bow he used that night. It wasn't there before. But now, every morning, he brought it out and placed it beside his meat. Like a shrine. Like it meant something. And still, not a single fly. After what I saw that night, I started paying close attention. Not just to Mallam Musa, but to the whole market. A week passed. Then two. At first, everything looked normal. The sun still beat down like fire. Traders still shouted over each other. Customers still bargained like their life depended on it. But something changed. Quietly. Slowly. Children started going missing. It began with Zainab's little boy. He used to play around the stalls with a plastic cup, pretending to sell rice and beans. One day, she came to the market crying, asking if anyone had seen him. People helped her search. They checked behind kiosks, under benches, even the gutter by the suyo stand. Nothing. A few days later, it was another boy. This one was Mama Titi's nephew. Gone. Just like that. Vanished into thin air. Everyone started whispering. Maybe they were kidnapped. Maybe they followed a stranger. It's ritual season. But no one mentioned the meat seller. They didn't want to believe it. His stall was clean. His meat was fresh. His prices were fair. How could someone like that be evil? But me, I remembered the fingers. I remembered how the boy didn't cry. I remembered the bow. One evening, I walked by his stall on purpose, pretending I was going to buy tomatoes from Mama Fati. As I passed, I slowed down to look. That silver bowl, it had something inside. Not meat. Something black. Maybe burnt cloth. Or dried leaves. I wasn't sure. But it didn't belong beside meat. I turned to look at his face. He was staring at me. Dead cold eyes. That night, I couldn't sleep again. I kept thinking about the missing boys. And the one I saw. Were they the same? How many had he used already? Still, I said nothing. Who would listen? The market leaders were older men. They cared more about rent and dues than missing children. And most of the mothers were too scared to think of something so dark happening so close. Then came the day I'll never forget. Little Musa, the errand boy, was sent by Mama Bose to deliver pepper to someone near the gate. He never came back. It was broad daylight. The market was full. Yet no one saw him leave. His mother came wailing the next morning. She collapsed in front of Mallam Musa's stall, screaming his name, accusing him. For a brief moment, the entire market went still. Mallam didn't move. He didn't defend himself. He didn't even blink. The crowd dragged the woman away, saying she was going mad with grief. That she shouldn't speak like that without proof. But I knew she wasn't mad. She was the first person to say what everyone else was afraid to. And that was the beginning of the end. After little Musa disappeared, I couldn't keep quiet anymore. I started telling two other sellers, people I trusted, what I saw. First was Mama Ejike, the tomato seller across from me. Her eyes widened when I told her. She didn't talk for almost a full minute, then whispered, "Are you sure it wasn't just a dream?" I told her, I saw the blood drip with my own eyes. Then I told Baba Sei, who sold groundnut oil beside the road. He was quiet, but I noticed he started watching Mallam Musa too. Still, no one said anything out loud. We were scared. We didn't know what else he could do. If someone could harm a child like that, what else was he capable of? The market continued like normal on the outside. But inside, there was fear. A quiet kind. You could feel it in how people looked at each other, how some women stopped bringing their children along, how some customers started whispering before buying his meat. Then one night, something happened that forced our hands. It was almost 8 p.m. Most sellers had gone home. I was still packing up when I saw Mallam Musa leaving with a sack slung over his shoulder. I had never seen him carry anything that heavy before. Something told me, follow him. I whistled to Baba Sei, who was still closing his shop. He followed me silently. Mama Ejak joined us halfway. The three of us moved slowly, staying in the shadows, not making a sound. Mallam walked down the bushy path behind the market. A narrow footpath no one used once the sun went down. He walked for about 15 minutes, straight into an abandoned house people said was built during the war but never finished. Walls without a roof. Just blocks, dust, and darkness. He went in. We waited a few seconds, then crept up. I peeked through a broken wall. My legs nearly gave way. Inside the room, 3 candles were burning. The sack was on the floor. He had opened it. And inside was a child. Barely moving. Gag. It was Musa, the errand boy. I almost screamed, but Baba Sei held my mouth. Mallam brought out that same silver bowl. This time, I saw dried blood stains inside. He set it down and brought out a knife. We couldn't take it anymore. Baba Sei rushed in first, shouting. Mallam looked up in shock. We all charged in. Mama Ejak ran straight to the child and untied him. Mallam tried to fight, but Baba Sei hit him with a plank. He dropped. Blood ran down his face. We tied his hands with rope and carried him straight to the local police post. When we got there, the officers looked at the silver bowl, then at the half-dead child. One of them whispered, "So it's true." They locked Mallam in a cell that night. But that was just the beginning of what we were about to uncover. The whole market was on fire the next morning, not with flames, but with shock and noise. The news spread faster than pepper in the eye. Mallam Musa was caught. They found Musa the errand boy alive. He was using a silver bowl for rituals. Traders gathered in front of the police station before 7 a.m. Some came with slippers half worn, others still tying wrappers. Everyone wanted to see him. The man with clean meat. The man without flies. But the worst part came when the police searched the space behind his stall. We followed them. Even the market chairman came with a long stick in his hand like he was going to war. They lifted his table, broke the wooden platform beneath, and found a dugout pit covered with zinc. Inside, 3 black nylon bags. Each one was tied tightly. When they opened them, some people fainted. Human fingers. Small ones. Dozens. Some still had bracelets. One had a sticker from a school ID card. The police didn't let anyone take pictures. They covered everything fast and sealed off the area. But we had already seen enough. People cried. Some mothers collapsed. Others started vomiting behind stalls. No one could believe it, not because it wasn't possible, but because it had been happening right there, in plain sight. The question everyone asked was, how didn't we see this? The answer was simple: we were too distracted by the fresh meat. Too amazed by how clean his table was. Too impressed by the lack of flies. The police interrogated Mallam for hours. He didn't speak. Not one word. Not even to drink water. He just stared, blinking slowly, like a lizard in the sun. No expression. No fear. But that same night, something strange happened. The police officer guarding his cell screamed. When others rushed in, they found Mallam lying flat on the ground, dead. No bruises. No cuts. Nothing. His eyes were open, mouth slightly apart, like someone had whispered something into his soul and it simply left. There was no sign of struggle. The cell was locked from outside. The officer who saw him last kept saying, he was smiling. Just before he dropped, he smiled. They buried him in a shallow grave, far outside town. No one claimed the body. No family, no friends, no one. But listen, that's not the end. The space where his store stood. It's still empty. Nobody wants to sell there. Not even pepper sellers. And even after all these weeks, the flies still don't go near it. I swear on my mother's grave, flies buzz around the meat seller next to it, around the fruit woman across the way, but they skip that exact spot. Like something dark still sits there, watching. Like the meat is still clean. Weeks passed, but the memory stayed fresh, like a sore that refused to dry. The meat sellers returned to their business. People started smiling again, but only on the surface. Something heavy still hung in the air. The space where Mallam Musa's table once stood was still empty. No one touched it. Not even beggars sat there. Market boys refused to rest in the shade beside it. Even mad people who used to sleep near the gutter wouldn't go close. That corner had turned cold. And the strangest thing, flies still didn't go near it. Even when someone tried to pour blood there, animal blood from the slaughterhouse, the flies would come halfway and turn back. It was like something was warning them. One brave young man, Joseph, decided to set up his own meat stall on that same spot. He said, "Fear is for cowards. Dead man no dey bite." We warned him. He didn't listen. First day, his meat was fresh. No flies. Customers were happy. Second day, still clean. Still no flies. But Joseph looked tired. His eyes had dark circles like someone who hadn't slept. By the third day, he was gone. His stall was empty. His table untouched. His tools scattered. No one saw him leave, until today, no one has seen him again. That was when we all agreed, the spot was cursed. Some pastors came to pray. A group of Muslim clerics came with mats and Qurans. They poured oil, water, salt, and sand. They chanted. They sang. But the spot remained cold. Still no flies. Still no peace. Musa the errand boy, the one we saved, doesn't speak anymore. His mother says he hasn't said a full sentence since the night we found him. He just sits at home, drawing things with crayons, bowls, knives, candles, and children with no hands. People say Mallam Musa was not an ordinary man. That he came from somewhere deep in the forest. That he was sent by something old and dark, not to sell meat, but to feed something that lived underneath. Me. I believe it. Because I saw the fingers. I saw the child that didn't cry. And I saw the flies avoid his table like death was sitting there, chewing. Now, when people ask me why I don't eat meat from strangers, I tell them the story. They laugh. They think it's just an old woman's tale. But then I look them in the eye and say, if only you knew why his meat had no flies, you'd never ask me that again. And when I say it, the air goes cold. Just like that stall.